Hey, everybody, welcome to the podcast today. I am really excited about our guest because our guest is Nate Last, who is the founder of Mental Grit. Now, Nate and I met in like a stars aligning situation,
Truth.
as I like to say, but it was really phenomenal. And I don't know if you know this, Nate, but before I started working with you, and kind of coming back into the sports psych world. I had been out of sports for a very long time.
Yeah.
And when I came back into contact with you and started learning all of these things alongside mental grit, it made me realize how many of those mental training techniques that I got taught when I was like 12, 13 years old, all the way through, they actually ended up saving my life outside of sports,
Mm.
which is so massive, which is why I've attached so hard onto this because I had an awakening of yes, we want to teach these youth athletes these skills to help them find greatness within their sport, but also more importantly, almost outside of sport as well. So thank you so much.
Well, I guess I'll start off with the fact that it saved my life too.
Mm.
And my life path, I would say, it wasn't as disastrous as, suicide or what have you. But it was, a life path that was very unfulfilling. That was very directed towards what others thought I should be doing with my life. And, coming to find out about sports psychology was really the biggest turning point of my life, into a place of fulfillment, into a place of, this is for me and this is what I want with my life and, what I feel like is most beneficial or important for me and what I feel like humans need. And that it was a big, big time in my life. That was a huge shift because I was going down the wrong path, the wrong direction and had been in it for a long time. And it was pretty awesome to the point where I switched my entire life in 24 hours. And it was a 24-hour flip flop from a place of mechanical engineering and, going down the path of that side of things. And albeit I loved the design and CAD and, development of cool things and robotics and all that stuff. But yeah, in a matter of 24 hours, I found out about sports psychology and changed my entire life path to align with sports psychology and ultimately the teaching of.
How did you
Then
find out about sports psychology? What was that? Like, where did it just come from? Especially if you were in a very different like
very, yeah,
industry and
yeah.
journey.
So,
Like,
I
what
mean,
happened?
it really was like I was doing like a psych minor, right? Like alongside I was doing a stupid amount of credits in college. I was having fun with that whole process, and it was just an interesting kind of concept to me with psychology as I was finding myself really misaligned with like how I was feeling about me and my identity and who I was. And so I wanted to take this course and we went to it was one of those optional things that you could go to and I was like, hey, that sounds kind of cool. I was a lacrosse player at the time at the University of Utah and sat down and heard a spiel from Dr. Nicole Detling Miller. And she was the foremost applied performance psychology consultant up at the University of Utah, and literally, heard that conversation, walked up the entire campus with her, spent 30 minutes with her. And I said, okay, how do I align myself with this path? And she says, well, XYZ. And that day switched the entire major and okay, XYZ then. With that just fire in me, I'm like, wow, like you hear about these moments, right? Like of like,
Mm.
you need to go find your passion. You need to go find your purpose. And at that point in time, I would have been like, oh, I like robotics. I like mechanical engineering, but is my purpose? Is my passion? Do I like I love it? Am I willing to like break through walls for this?
Yeah.
And it was like a simple no. It was like, no. But that day, like there was so much fire in me. And I was like, oh my God, if I would have had that conversation, that single conversation when I was 14,
Mm.
what could my life have been? Like, how much more fun could I have had with sports? How much more enjoyable of a time could I have had in my life? How much less chaos could have, could I have not had suffered through because of my own negativity, my own asshole nature to myself. I was super
Yeah.
critical, really nasty, to myself. I was, wonderful with everybody else. I loved, working with people and being with people. life the party kind of thing, right? But
Mhm.
it internally, I was an absolute wreck. I was a disaster. And yeah, that day it was like, whoa, like, what if I had this? And that ultimately became kind of the basis of the story of my life at this point, right? Of okay, if I could do anything with my life, it would be giving, my younger self the thing that I needed when I was a kid.
Yeah. I love pivotal moments. They're just, oh, I love them. They give me goosebumps and they just make me, yes, because a lot of times too, those pivotal moments, they are also paired with like grief a little bit because you're saying goodbye to a whole chapter of yourself and you're saying goodbye to a future you'd thought was right. And even though there's excitement about the new one, it's also paired with, oh, and worries about what are people going to think and am I going to be able to make this work and all of those things. So how has sports psych and the tools that we now teach to athletes, how did those actually come alongside of you and help you with that transition as well?
So to be completely frank, I think this is how I knew is that
Hmm.
there was like the one person in my life that I was more worried about their opinion than anybody else's opinion. It was such an easy thing to be like, screw them. This is mine.
Yeah.
And it was so easy to call my mom up. And that person wasn't necessarily my mother, but I called my mom up that day and I said, Mom, 3 years into mechanical engineering, I'm sorry. I'm found a different path and I'm going down it. And she says, okay, we love you. We're proud of you. Keep going.
That's
Okay.
awesome.
Like it was super easy. And
Yeah.
then like the opinions of others, it was so easy to the point where there was no care. I didn't
Mhm.
care about anybody else in that situation, in that purpose, and that it was purely like, this is what I need. This is what I feel like is mine. Right. Like, and that's I kind of think like where it was really easy to let go of the past. It was really easy to let go of the social stigma, of the social, nuances that were a part of that time in life. But with that all being said, I mean, performance psychology, the one thing that really changed my whole world with it was this whole idea of presence.
Mm.
I remember, walking down campus one day and just like everybody else, my head was down and I was in my head and I was thinking about all the things of this, that, and the other of, whether or not I should continue to pursue, lacrosse. And I just gone through a couple of injuries, two broken ankles and an ACL tear and a
Oh,
surgery and all of the stuff that kind of like came down to it. And like just in my head. And I remember seeing a leaf, right? Like just a basic, maple leaf kind of running across and I picked my head up and I watched that leaf and I saw it, it was a windy day and I saw it, jump up in the air and kind of like followed it along. And then I looked up and it was like, wow, like how much of life am I missing with me
mm,
being stuck in my head? And this was after the conversation in sports psychology and they talked about presence and, being in the moment. And the only other time in life that I had that kind of experience was when I was in Australia. I went, after high school, went on an expedition with a group called the National Outdoor Leadership School, which is NOLS for short. In Australia, 3 months backpacking, sea kayaking, sailing, kind of just being a part of the world. And out there, you were only allowed a couple of pair of underwear and a couple of shirts, right? Like that's because that's what you could carry in your back. And when I was out there, that was the first time I ever felt the spiritual connection with life, right?
yeah.
Like an actual like spiritual resonance with the who I was and being present with the world. And in that time period, it was just like the most present I'd ever been in my life. And it was the most happy I've ever been in my life.
Mm,
I should say less happy, more peaceful, right?
there
It
you go.
was more
Yeah.
about peace for me. And it was just like, okay, like I don't need much of anything. Um, I've got the stuff on my back and I got a good brain on my head. I can do things, all the things, whatever it needs to be. Went through some seriously crazy experiences out there um, went back to school 3 years into school, got muddled up in the chaos of life in my head again. And then, remembering that, seeing that leaf and it was like, wow, like that's what presence is, right? Like just picking your head up and not missing the tweet of the birds and the planes in the sky and the ruffle of the trees and the sounds. And then I looked around me and I saw, hundreds and hundreds of human beings with their head in the ground,
Yeah.
walking up and walking down and in their head. And I was like, that sucks. That is a shitty existence right there.
Yeah.
That was like alignment with like what present actually meant. And from that day forward, it was like my whole mission was just to become present with whatever it is I was doing, with whoever it is I was doing it with.
Hmm.
And yeah, so present moment focus, and just ultimately recognizing that I could control it and
Yeah.
actually executing the control of it was the big part of it. And that's big piece in sports psychology. It's being where your feet are.
Yeah. Like,
And
let's
learning
follow
how
that
to, right?
trail.
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah. Like, so we work with youth athletes, like pretty much 12 to 24 kind of
Yep.
age bracket here.
Yep.
So how do you go about putting this concept into a way that they can attach to it and run with it? Present.
Presence, I always like to ask a simple question of like, what is it? What is the present moment? How do we know it's present?
Hmm.
And, I might play with you on this one, right? Like, and with the listeners here, right? Like, I think this is kind of a fun question to ask. Like, what is it? Like, how do we know present is present? Like, what is it made out of? And I mean, I don't know. Do you have any ideas? Like, what would you say present moment is made of?
Well, things that are like actually happening in this exact moment.
How do you know?
Well, I mean, going to a tool that we use, like a 5 to 1, what are things that are tangible that you can see, that you can hear, that you can smell, you use your senses that are bringing you grounded into that moment rather than being attached to something in the future or something in the
Yeah,
past?
it's your senses.
Hmm.
Because what we sense, the inputs of present moment, the inputs of life,
Yeah.
is everything that we can see and touch and feel and taste and smell and feel, right? Like,
Hmm.
and I go to that point of feel, right? Like that is
Yeah.
the sixth sense in my opinion, because that is the feel of life. That's the gut. That's the feeling, the emotion, right? The things that are happening presently. Like those are the inputs of present moment. Our
Yeah.
breath, right? Like another one. Because it's always happening right now, whatever it may be. And if we just redirect our attention to actually paying attention to what we're sensing,
Hmm.
we are no longer future in our head, thinking about and engaging in an imagination that is what could be. And we are no longer, in a space of what has been, right? Like it is just
Yeah.
purely what do you, what do you actually, what are the inputs that are actually coming in right now? And
Hmm.
as long as, we can just start playing with like recognizing when we're more in the future, or more in the past, or just in our head, and
Yeah.
readjust and accept it, right? Like, I mean, that's a big point of mindfulness, is this whole concept of, just recognizing where you're at and understanding wherever you're at. Don't judge yourself for it. There's no need to judge. Like if you were here, if you were there, it's just recognizing that, yeah, you might be in a space that might not be super helpful for you,
Hmm.
and bringing that attention back to where, you have most power, and the most power that you have is in the place that you're in right now. It's the only time that you can do anything about anything. And that recognition right there, that was a big one for me. But I think it's really interesting, especially with humans, is sometimes they just don't realize that they do have control over that. They do have
Right.
control over adjusting that lens, or that light,
Mhm.
of attention to whatever they want. And the most powerful place that we can put it is with everything that's happening right now. So that's
Yeah.
that whole concept of, when I'm talking to athletes, I want to take the ethereal piece out of it. And I want to talk specifically with parents as well, right? And the
Yeah.
coaches, like take out all the mumbo jumbo of psych speak or whatever you might be, and mindfulness and be mindful. Like I can't get that. I love it. But presence is essentially just like this tangible sense of just like what you see and what you hear and what you feel, when you smell, when you taste, when you touch, and what you feel, right?
Yeah.
And that's the exciting part, in my opinion, is it's so much less ethereal and so much more tangible than what 99% of human beings believe psychology really is. Psychology is very tangible.
Yeah. Yeah. So then with, with this concept of being present, being mindful, being in the now, but we're working with athletes, and athletes are so goal oriented and they're so outcome based and they're so most of them are living in the future And
Absolutely.
they're tied back by failure of things that have happened in the past. And so they really are almost in this like stretched position here, reaching forward, being held by the back. So, like, is there an importance? Do those still play a role in sports, having goals and learning from the past? Like, how do we
Hmm.
navigate that as parents? Because I think too, parents are very focused on those two things as well, because that's what they can see from the outside. So
Mhm.
how do we navigate that with youth athletes?
So I kind of have an extreme idea around this.
Yeah.
But I hate goals. I think they're stupid. They always were a disastrous, feeling of stress and anxiety and worry and fear because all my where my goals were very future oriented and they were massive. They were huge goals. But every time I set a goal, I failed every single time. And I hated that. And it was just like, that was so stupid to me. And so the idea here, in my opinion, is that, if we can teach individuals how to execute, and it's more the doing of the things rather than the thinking of the things early in life in the 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 age group, get them good at understanding what presence actually is and how to execute in the moment.
Mm.
Once that skill is on board and that they can recognize like where their head is at, then and only then I think it's okay to bring in outcome and bring in goals and bring in like the things that we want and vision and all of that stuff. Because I don't think teenage kids, especially, have a very good understanding of how to control their vision, right? How to not get too hung up in the future, in the goals of all the things. And but that's the problem, I think, in my opinion, is the fact that society is pushing goals, 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 goals. They start doing it when they're 8 years
Mhm.
old and they start setting time goals for themselves and blah, 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 when they don't even have an ability to be in the moment and do the thing that they need to do. And so developing that capacity of helping them recognize their ability to put their focus where it needs to be on the execution of it all.
Mhm.
Once they have that skill set down, then start bringing goals in so they can start controlling and knowing and recognizing how much time and effort they're putting into the things they need to do versus the thinking of what they want,
Right.
where I think that's kind of backwards right now. We kind of teach our kids to want, and to dream and envision your life, but they don't really have a lot of skill and understanding how to get out of that space and back into the moment, back into the
Yeah.
execution and the doing and the capabilities and the building and the sweating and the and the breathing and all the things, right? So it's just like I think that's just an interesting concept overall, but helping them understand that yeah, you have 100% control over where you put your focus,
Mhm.
and goals are essentially in the end a component of focus, in my opinion,
Yeah.
right? Like, yeah, goal focus is technically what we're tracking. How much time and attention are you putting on your outcomes, on the things that you want and all the things that you're dreaming about, and how much time and
Mhm.
attention are you putting on the work and the execution and the skills and the doing of it all, and making sure that comes into alignment at some point in time
Mhm.
to 10% of our focus in terms of the research. Like, optimal essentially becomes outcome orientation. Have 10, maybe 15, maybe 20% of your time and effort being spent in that space of
Mhm.
envisioning and dreaming and really like knowing where you want to go, because it does give us the direction.
Yeah.
But the rest of it, the 70 to 80 to 90% of the rest of the time, your goal focus should be on the process, on the capabilities, on the execution, on the doing of it all.
Right.
And so, like, keeping those two spaces very separate and then teaching one side and then the other, I think, is a more effective way. And that's typically what we do with these kids. And they see so much more fulfillment from it because now
Yeah.
they're not just dreaming it and feeling the good feelings of the dream that they're dreaming, because the body doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. We know this,
Let's
right?
dive into that a little bit because we
Yeah.
know this, but people listening might not. So what do you mean by that? What do you mean by the brain doesn't know the difference? And
No, the
when you're
body.
talking about the athletes
Yeah.
feeling that, like, can you explain that to me?
Yeah. So the body does not know the difference between imagination and reality. And I'll go down like a little stream here of saying, okay, like we've all been sleeping at night, dreaming, and the environment's a little bit hot. And so, like for some reason we have the fight dream, or we have the falling off the cliff dream, or we have, whatever it is the situation is, where we wake up in the
Yeah.
middle of the night and our body is sweating profusely, full stress response state, right? Like dukes are up, and you've done it before where you've maybe fallen off, a cliff in your dream and you wake up startled and your body does a lot
Totally.
of this, right? Like the body will respond to whatever the head is imagining. It's still sending all of the signals into the body. So whether or not we're imagining it or we're doing it, the
Hmm.
body won't know. It's still going to send the same stress response if it's a stressful environment in our imagination. It's still going to send this, same feelings of elation and joy and pride and, and passion if we're imagining, and envisioning and all the things that we want in the future. It's still going to feel the same things. We can see ourselves succeeding. And if we see
Right.
ourselves succeeding, it's going to shoot all of the signals into our body to feel the good feelings that we would feel if we actually got that thing.
Yeah.
The disconnect here is essentially when kids and parents and humans, right? Like whatever age they are, they envision so much, they feel all those good feelings as if they actually had it,
Right.
but they don't.
Yeah.
And that's where the discrepancy comes up. That's where the stress comes in. That's where the anxiety comes in. That's where the what ifs and if I can't and blah, 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 blah comes in. Like I felt the thing that I wanted, but I
Yeah.
don't actually have the thing that I want. And that's a hard thing for humans to kind of like dissociate and disconnect. And honestly, like again, like the body's going to feel the same feelings if we imagine a great event or a bad event as if the thing actually happened. Same
Yeah.
signals, same pathways get shot down, right? Like, same everything. It's crazy what happens there. But anyway,
No, that's so good. I'm glad that you explained it like that. So I'm gonna kind of recap just to make sure.
yeah.
So what you're saying is that yes, it's good to have some sort of an idea of where you want to go. But the important part is then working your way backwards and figuring out what are all of the menial little steps that it's going to take in order to go, like, get there, and then to be focusing on following through on becoming the person who does steps A through Z in order to become the person who can obtain that rather than focusing on solely just that, because then you are in the muck, you're working hard, and all the little, pressures or struggles or practicing all the time and working out at 4 in the morning and all of those things, they just become a part of becoming the person who is that person at the end. Does that make sense? Is that what you're saying? Pretty much.
I kind of, yeah. I mean, the stepwise approach to goal setting is like set your long-term goals and set up your short-term goals and then, your micro goals, like that whole stepwise approach. Honestly, like in my philosophy, it's big vision,
Mm-hmm.
capabilities that I need to like lifestyle. It kind of goes from like vision, everything that we want in the end. Okay, great. There's one goal. I like
Mm-hmm.
it. We need to have the outcome goals. We need to have a direction. We need to have motivation. We need to have
Yeah.
inspiration for the things that we want.
Yeah.
The other set of goals is honestly like the doing goals, right?
Yeah.
Like, and capability based goals and the processes that we take every single day,
Yeah.
and are those the processes that will ultimately, potentially get us closer to that outcome goal?
Right.
But even I think even those like intermediary goals, right? Like, okay, like we've got a big swim meet coming up. Or I'm a swimmer. I want to get to the Olympics. Okay, great. If I want to make the Olympics, I've got to make nationals. If I got to make nationals, I got to make, sectionals. If I got to make sectionals, you can set all those goals, but all of those are all outcome based. They're
Yeah.
all like things in the future. And
Yeah.
so I think like, okay, yeah, maybe have those goals. I like it. Don't spend too much time on them. Like know them, envision them, see them. You got to know your path, obviously. But 80% of the time needs to be on like, what am I doing? What are the things that what are the goals I need to set in terms of capabilities? What do I need to be able to do in order to get what I want? and making sure that we're doing the things that we need to be doing. Right. And
Okay.
so I
So,
think the goals need to come down to capabilities and processes and lifestyle over, and 80% of our time needs to be focused on that over the outcomes and the vision. But
yeah,
everybody's touting vision boards,
yeah.
right? And this concept of like the law of attraction. Like I've heard a lot of this lately, right? Like the law of attraction, I'm really good at like dreaming of the thing that I want. And if I dream about it, then I'm going to get it. Have you heard that? I
Oh
don't
yeah,
know. Like,
so
have you
many
seen,
times. And I
what
mean,
are your thoughts on this whole concept? Because this is even one that I'm trying to work through myself. I'm just like, okay, yes, but we can fall into the trap of just living there. And
yeah,
just because
yeah.
we're living there doesn't mean we're doing anything to get there.
Well,
And I
exactly.
don't know. I mean, you see it on social media all over the place. Everyone's touting like, have the big vision, be there, live there, attract it to yourself by thinking about it. I think it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Well, a part of it is, at least, and not the, you can't go 100% into that and just think that if you just think about it, you'll
Yeah,
attract
no,
it.
that is
Like,
bullshit. Yeah, no, you also need to be able to take like work as fucking hard as you can to move yourself in the direction of that. It's not just gonna, oh, look at all of a sudden it's there. No, you need to become the person who has earned that and like you create the doors opening. You become the person that when the opportunities come, it's a yeah, right? It's not I'm just gonna dream about being in the Olympics one day and it's just gonna happen. Like, how is that gonna happen?
yeah,
Yeah,
you can't dream your way into a kid who's motivated and committed and confident. You can't
yeah,
like, if
yeah,
that's what your goal is to have your kid be confident and excited and like this A player in life, to
yeah,
dream about it won't attract that
yeah,
thing to you. You're not going to get that for yourself. Or
yeah,
even if a kid has, big dreams of what he wants to be in the Olympics, okay, great. Like have those dreams, but don't believe by just thinking about it is going to get you there in any way, shape. And I think that's the big trap that teenagers specifically fall into. And I think that's what they're being told.
yeah,
I think coaches are saying, I think society is saying, I think social media is saying, it's just dream, just think, just feel it and live in that space of what you want and it'll
yeah.
come. It's just like, mm, mm,
Well, and I think too that there's a big piece behind that because when people are visualizing and making these dream boards and all this kind of stuff, it's always the good things.
yeah,
It's not
it's
the
glorified.
struggle. It's not the, going running when it's pouring rain outside or missing the birthday parties or, like whatever, all of those crazy things that are nobody likes to think about. Nobody likes to talk about them because they suck. And so it's just like all this, rainbows and butterflies. And then when those hard moments come, all of a sudden it's too hard, or you're not ready, or you don't push through it because it's not supposed to be difficult. It feels like this and it looks like this. This shitty part wasn't even ever involved in that at all, right?
Yeah,
And so I think that's a powerful piece for, all of you athletes listening, for coaches who are and parents who are talking about, vision boards and the big dreams and stuff. It's okay. Yeah, it's great to have those, but also what does it take to get there? It takes a lot of sweat, blood, and tears. And you
for
have
sure.
to you have to bring that into it.
And I would go as far as to say, if you're gonna dream, dream about all the shit.
Yes.
Dream about all
Yeah.
the nasty interactions and all the hard conversations and all the pain and
Yeah.
all the frustration, and envision how you're gonna respond to
Yeah.
all the shit in life. So you know what you're going to do when that shit comes down the line, right? Like, and it
Yeah.
will come down the line. And so like I mean, that's one of those capability, aspects that I'm kind of talking about with athletes, with parents specifically, is like, you guys like get real with the situation.
Hmm.
And if you're going to set goals for yourself, set goals and how you're going to respond to the shit in life.
Yeah.
And that's a great goal to have, in my opinion, because then you
Yeah.
start thinking about that stuff. And yeah, it seems a little counterintuitive. Dream about the shit. Yeah, dream about the shit, but more importantly, dream about how you're going to respond to the shit when it does occur. That
Yeah.
way you are ready and prepared and confident
Yeah.
and how you're going to respond to it, especially the pain, especially that last 25 meters, especially, when your team's down 20 points in the last quarter, right? Like dream about what you're going to do about it.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be ready when it happens. Right. Like I think those are the fun ones because that stuff happens way more often
Oh,
than all
totally.
the glory and all the greatness and all the excitement. Right. Like,
Yeah.
but that makes me all the more excited for that shit to come down the line because I'm ready.
Yeah.
Like, bring it on. Bring on the heavy wins. I'm
Yeah.
a triathlete myself. Like, everybody's like, oh, I hate bad days. I hate windy days and rainy days. Best time of my entire life was like my second half Ironman triathlon when it not only blew at 45, 50 miles an hour, it sleeted, it snowed, and then it hit 85 in the same damn day. And
That's amazing.
like I think 75% of the entire field dropped out of that race. And
Yeah.
I was in like I loved it. It was one of the most favorite races of my entire life because I had been dreaming of all the shit that came down the line and I knew what I was going to do about it and I was smiling, I was getting tight and I was putting power into the pedals and it was just fun because
Yeah.
everywhere else I looked at every one of the other competitors as I passed them
Yeah.
with grimaces and just like slogging and just like piss poor attitudes about the whole situation. It's
Yeah.
just like, well, I think that's a definition of how we can gain a mental edge on everybody else is just
Yeah.
recognizing that we have the ability to envision the shit and be ready for it when it does come down the line.
Yeah, I love that. And this whole time while we've been talking about this kind of concept of visualizing and all that, I used to have this t-shirt that I got from a volleyball camp when I was like 13 years old. And it was my favorite t-shirt. And on the front of it, it said, "Dream big, sweat big."
Mm,
Right. And it's just so simple. Right. And it was just like, if you're going to dream big, you need to sweat big. You need to put in the work. You can't, it didn't just say dream big.
yeah.
Like there are other pieces to that to add into it to get you to become. And I think that too, this is all about becoming. It's not about
Oh yeah.
getting.
Mastery.
It's not about
Yeah.
getting, it's about becoming. And I know that's something that we talk about, in mental grit is that mental toughness isn't an outcome. It's a
Yep.
lifestyle, right?
It's what you do. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's execution. It's a process.
Yeah.
And it's finding yourself in that negative space and getting yourself back to neutral.
Yeah.
It's, dreaming of all the glory and then choosing to find the shit
Hmm.
and preparing for it.
Yeah.
It's, recognizing that, we're in this vision of all the things that we want and refocusing back on the things that we need to do to get there, right? Like
Hmm.
that that's mental toughness. That is the definition of mental toughness is finding ourselves in a place that isn't necessarily helpful for us and
Yeah.
bringing our attention, our awareness to things that actually do help us get to where we want to go, to be tough in the things that we have to face in the moment,
Yeah.
whenever that moment is.
I love this. So I'm curious. We we work with youth athletes, which means that all those youth athletes have coaches.
Yes. Yes, they do.
And the majority of those coaches do not have access to or really know much about mental training. Let's assume that they're all listening right now.
Okay.
And let's hope that they are. What do you think is something that is really important for coaches to know in order to support their athletes and pass on to their athletes when it comes to mental toughness in sport?
Two things. Number one, recognize that what you care about as a coach, as a spectator,
Mm-hmm.
is not the same thing that the athletes care about as the athletes, the one doing the work. Coaches care about metrics and analytics and time and, splits and, all the numbers of all of it, right? Batting
Mm-hmm.
averages or throwing completion percentages and blah, 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 right? Like coaches care about that stuff.
Yeah.
The moment you care about that stuff in front of your athletes is
Mm-hmm.
the moment that they are going to care about that stuff more than the things that they need to be thinking and doing as the athlete to get the stuff that you're caring about. Right.
Right.
That is, I mean, I had a conversation with a group of coaches the other day and they were like, but we need to know the numbers. I'm like, yes, you need to know the numbers. Do your athletes need to know the numbers?
Mm-hmm.
No. Unless they are a spun up data nerd and they are getting like loving the data and they want to dig into that and that's what drives them to like go after the cake. Great.
Yeah.
Maybe dig into that with them on those in that individual basis. But with all of the other ones,
Yeah.
care about what athletes need to care about, because the more you as a coach care about those things, the doing, the execution, the capabilities, right? Like the more they're going to care about it as well.
Yeah.
But athletes specifically get really drug into caring about what spectators care about. What
Yeah.
they talk about on the radio and what they talk about, on ESPN and all the metrics and all the data and blah, 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 blah. That's not what athletes need to be caring about in any way, shape, or form. They need to be caring about what they do on the court,
Yeah.
in the swimming pool, on the course, right? Like on the
Yeah.
pitch, wherever it is. Coaches, please recognize that your athletes need to care about different things than what spectators care about. And yes, you are a spectator as a coach,
Yeah.
meaning that you're going to need to get really good at understanding and remembering what it was like to be an athlete and what you needed to care about in order to perform as an athlete. And you know as well as I do that it wasn't the time and it wasn't the outcomes and it wasn't the batting percentage that you needed to care about most in order to get the high percentages or the lower scores or whatever it might be on the outcomes, right? Just
Yeah.
just remember that. So that's number one.
Let's pause there for one moment because I want
Please,
to
yes,
ask your
come.
opinion on something. So I had on the podcast a two-time Olympic coach for women's basketball the other day, and we were talking a bit about this, and I loved it. And she was talking about how she asks her athletes and the coaches as well, what are the values that are important to you in an athlete? Working hard, taking risks, leadership skills, teamwork, like all, what are those? And then how do you measure those rather than times and scores and amount of layup, like whatever, like all of those things, right? And so it was really putting that into perspective of like what is important for the person, for the human behind the sport, the athlete. What are those skills? What are those values? And then,
Mhm.
well, how do you measure those? And then when you are I'm trying to make sure that I get this right. When you are talking to the athlete and then you ask them, what did you do that was, showing your work ethic or showing your teamwork or showing your leadership skills or and all of that kind of stuff too, rather than just rewarding and measuring the specific outcomes. What do you think about that? Do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I mean, you got to get tangible with the individual athlete, in my opinion. I mean,
Yeah.
the fun part about this day and age that we live in sports is the fact that we have video of everything.
Yeah.
We have imagery of everything these kids do.
Mm-hmm.
And, from parents' phones, from, live streaming services, everything is being
Yeah.
recorded, which is great. And so really enabling the staff and the athletes to look for those behaviors that do align with the values of what right looks like as an athlete. And that is communication and, speed and keeping your head up. And you can count all those in a
Yeah.
video. So count them.
Yeah.
Okay, like I saw you challenged where you missed a shot 20 times and missed a pass and had a challenging situation 20 times this game. You picked your head up 18 times out of 20. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
A plus, right? But
Yeah.
no one talks about that. No
No.
one in game like film time is talking about how many times you pick your head up after a mistake.
Yeah.
No one talks about how it would be really easy right here to back off after you got hit,
Mm-hmm.
and you're scared and you're worried and you're worried about injury or what have you, and how you remained aggressive even after that hit happened.
Yeah.
Those are like, you can count those in a video,
Yeah.
but people just don't look at them, right?
Yeah.
So that's number one, utilizing video analysis to find the behaviors that do align with your, you know, program's values, whatever your program's values are. And I'll even take this a step further. If you don't have an opinion from your team, the current year's team, of what those values are, and you're directing them in what you feel like is most important, and it's not what coming from them, then you're doing your team a disservice, right?
Mm.
Like making sure you're getting a voice from the team itself on what they think is the most important things they can be doing in order to achieve the big goals of the program. Making sure they have a voice in the values of the program itself, I think, is
Yeah.
really, really important. Um, but I'll also go down to, if each individual, and we did this with a baseball player the other day, baseball, yeah, athlete, 13 years old, really struggles at the plate. First at bat will always be very confident, very strong in his posturing, up in front of the plate, right? Really attack mode. As the pitch count goes, you know, you literally can see him start backing off. He goes into a defensive mindset. He goes into a place that's very like, oh shit, I'm gonna
Mm.
fail. I'm gonna fail. I just want to make sure I don't screw up. Don't screw up. Look at the coach. And then you see him just start keep backing and backing and backing. And so, honestly, the biggest thing that we did for him, and he's destroying it right now, his batting average is way, way high. The only definition of success for him is how many times and how many at bats he gets, how many pitches he takes, confident, aggressive, forward in the plate.
Mm.
And he knows that. He
Yeah.
knows when he does that. And he tracks that. By the time he gets back to the box, no matter if it was a hit, no matter if it was a strikeout, he counts every pitch. He goes through every pitch as soon as he gets back to the dugout, and he writes it down in his journal. I got, 5 out of 5 pitches. I was aggressive. I was up in my stance. I was confident. I worked my process in my batting process. We kind of, developed that piece for him. But essentially, it kind of came down to his definition of success as a batter was how many hits he got, period. And if
Mm.
he didn't get any hits, or if he struck out, or if he fouled 15 off, or if he even hit one, he got caught, but he got a runner in, that was still failure to him.
Mm.
And so we changed that definition from, outcomes to his process. And the moment that he actually engaged in being the best he could be in his process, his batting average started going up. Right. But it's just a simple, like, okay, just change the definition of success for you. Right.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, right now we're defining it based off of what spectators think is most important, what coaches think, what society of baseball thinks is most important is the hit. Two, are you doing the things to get the hit? Are you
Mm-hmm.
staying aggressive in the box? Right? Are you staying forward? Are you staying confident? Are you staying loose? And
Yeah.
if you do those things, that's a success. And all of a sudden, he started enjoying the sport more. He started getting more at bats. His coach started seeing more confidence. He started getting more hits. His batting average started going up. Right. And
Yeah.
so, again, it comes back down to spectators care about some things. Athletes need to care about other things than what spectators care about, because being the athlete, doing the performance, executing those things are completely different than the numbers and the metrics and the outcomes of the game. And that's just something that I don't think people are talking about.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're dropping gold.
Gold.
I'm just like, oh my God. Okay, so that was the spectator versus athlete kind of mindset understanding for coaches was the first thing. And you said
Mm-hmm.
you had two. What's the second one?
So yeah, that I mean, so the first thing, utilizing video specifically, right? Like video, identifying the behaviors that align with the values and counting those
Mm-hmm.
those KPIs essentially inside of the, your video reviews. The second one is essentially that spectator versus,
Okay.
athlete kind of space, and recognizing those two spaces are very different, right?
Yeah.
So I think those are the most important two, in my opinion, right now.
Okay. And now let's talk to parents. Let's talk to the parents. All you parents out there, we know that you always have the best intentions when you are have kids in sports, even when you don't have kids in sports. You always have the best intentions and you're working with the tools that you have to support them, to provide them with resources and really, push them to unlock their potential. Nate, what are a couple of things that parents that would help parents be able to do this in a way that is actually supportive for the youth.
Hmm. So first and foremost, I just want to say to all the parents out there that I want to acknowledge that your intentions are pure,
Yeah,
and parenting is stupid difficult,
right?
and it's so stupid hard. And I just want to acknowledge that fact, because
Yeah,
that I mean, everyone's trying. No one's trying to hurt their kid. No one's trying to, get in the way. No one's trying to do. Your intentions are absolutely pure.
yeah.
When it comes to parenting athletes, I think we get really good at parenting 0 to 10. And we feel like we're new parents. The first one comes along and it's a complete cluster of like chaos, and you learn and you grow and you develop and you recognize your role in the family and how to keep them safe and how to keep them from essentially not dying. That's like our biggest prerogative as parents.
Right?
And we get good at it. We get good at keeping them safe. We get good at making sure that they're not doing stupid things too much, right? Like we get good at 0 to 10. And it is a disservice if you continue to parent 11 through 20 the same way you did 0 to 10.
Mm,
Because when 11 to 20 comes along, it's more about getting them ready for the real world, and keeping them safe is the one thing that you can't do 11 to 20.
mhm,
You got to enable challenge and difficulty and figuring it out and being resourceful and self-confidence. And I think because parents get used to and they feel confident in themselves of keeping their kids safe, they don't want to step back into that white belt mentality, that I'm new to this and I don't know what I'm doing space again. And so they stay in that space of confidence, ultimately telling their kids how to do all the things that they need to do the right way, stealing the confidence
mhm,
from their kid in those experiences that they're having with the best of intentions. I just don't want you to hurt, honey. I don't want you to feel sad. I don't want you to feel bad. I don't want you to like feel pain. I don't want you to be like, I get that. Like, and I have my
mhm,
own, and I hate seeing him cry, and it just tugs at my heart. And every day I even have to battle with that. Like, okay, when's the right time to kind of bring the safety and the solutions and solving of the problems? And when's the right time on enabling him to figure it out
mhm,
and work the process for himself, so he can then be confident with that situation as he moves forward in life, right? But
mhm,
I think the one thing that parents can do is just recognize that when you step into 11, 12, 13, 14, that the more that you can take a step back and enable them to make their own choices, fail, struggle, cry, have the heartbreaks, even to the point of screwing up so bad that, yeah, they go to jail, right? Like, I mean, yeah, that's what we're really worried about. And they do that. They're going to get a really quick reality check, into what right looks like. And obviously that's an extreme example, but anyway, I think it does come down to we've got to enable our kids to have more experiences with challenge and struggle.
Uh,
So
I want to interject here because you said
please.
something that I think is really powerful and I think maybe like piqued the ears of people listening. And you said something about we need to stop putting ourselves in situations where we are stealing confidence from our kids.
Mhm.
How are we doing that unknowingly? And like, so, and in that case, like, so where does confidence come from then? And how are we unknowingly stealing it from our kids when we're trying to keep them safe?
Well, when we have a challenge come up, our kids going through something nasty, basic example, kid's got a coach that's an a-hole,
Hmm.
and he's not giving him enough time, at the plate, not giving him enough time in the pool, not giving him enough attention. And so as parents, we're like, we know how to solve this problem. Go to the coach. We talk to the coach. Coach, you need to give my kid more time. We've got to have that. We got to make sure of like coach, like, come on.
Yeah.
And the moment you step into that, because you are self-confident as a parent, or you know what to do in the situation, you go and have that conversation. What would happen if the kid went and had that conversation? Coach, I'm here
Mm,
for a reason. I
yeah.
want to be the best. I'm not getting your attention. I'm not getting your time. Are you going to back me? Are you my coach? Are you here for me? Do you want, right? Like, have that conversation,
Yeah.
but the kid's got to have that conversation. It can't be the adult. But the moment that kid self advocates and the moment that kid steps up and says, I can, like, coach, I need you, like, if I am here to do this and I'm not getting this time, I can't become. Will you help me become? And
Yeah.
the coach says either yes or no. And the coach says, yes, I've got your back. Now you have a relationship, between coach and athlete. And the coach is knowing that the athlete is wanting it
Yeah.
versus, or you have the no. And he says, okay, I think I need to switch teams. I need to go find a coach that will. And then you can
Yeah.
go talk to the parents. Mom and dad, my coach doesn't have my back. I went and had the conversation with him. It doesn't feel like he can help me get to where I want to go. We need to go find a new coach that can. Right. The
Yeah.
moment that kid does that, oh my gosh, you got a kid that will self advocate, that is more self confident than 99% of the kids in this world right now,
Yeah.
versus you have the parents go and have that conversation with the coaches. And it's just like, congratulations, parents. Like, you know how to talk to adults, you know how to get what you want. Congratulations.
Yeah.
I love that for you, but you just took that opportunity away from your kid to become something more than he is right now. So he can then go have those conversations with his coaches, with his, bosses, with
Yeah.
his, colleagues 10 years from now, when
Totally.
most kids, they get to 20 and they have no idea how to have a difficult conversation. Right. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's one example of the
Yeah.
hundreds and hundreds of opportunities that sports, and this is the fun part, right? Sports automatically gives all of these opportunities to
Yeah.
kids. And all the parents are doing is just like doing it for them. It's just like, damn it. Like, just let them figure it out. Right. Like, and
Yes.
I say that so flippantly, and I really don't want to seem like super arrogant, because I've done it myself. Like,
Me
kids
too.
struggling,
Yeah.
I'm like, I gotta go fix it. And then I'm like, as soon as I hear the word fix out of my mouth, or solve,
Mm.
or I'm like, that's a trigger for me to shut the hell up.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and then I go have the conversation with, okay, what do you want to do about this, kid?
Yeah.
Right. Like, oh, I want more playing time. Okay. How are you going to get it?
Yeah.
Well, I need to go talk to coach. Okay. What's that conversation sound like?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going to say X, Y, and Z. I'm scared, dad. Good. It's okay. I am scared too. And you're doing a hard thing.
Yeah.
And I believe in you. What do you need from me? I need you to do it for me, dad. I can't do that for you, son.
Yeah.
You can do this. I believe in you. What do you need me to do to help prepare you for that conversation? Well, can we run through a couple of scenarios? Yeah, let's do it. Have the scenarios, right? Like, but man, it's so stupid difficult, because I still do it to this day. Like,
Mm.
even knowing all of this stuff. So
Yeah.
again, like, the way our love shows up for our kids can be also perceived differently from our kids as well. Right. Like, we think that it can come from a place of like support and I love you. I'm proud of you. I had a kid, conversation with a kid the other day, and a mom. And this was a fun conversation. So for the parents and the athletes out there, please, take some notes on this, because I think this is one of the most profound conversations that you can have. If you don't know if you're doing the right thing as a parent, ask. Ask your kid. Ask your kid what they're loving. Ask your kid what they're hating, and ask
Mm-hmm.
your kid what they want more of.
Yeah.
Right? Like, ask those three questions and you'll get all the answers, because guess what? As soon as they hit 10, 11, 12 ish, depending on kind of psychological maturity, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have the capability to have those conversations. They have the
Oh yeah.
capability to give you their perspective.
Yeah.
And if you ask those questions, you better damn well lean really hard into everything they're saying and take it seriously, because if it's coming from a place of truth, you can absolutely do something different to have your love show up the way that they need your love to show up, to support them in their challenges that they're facing, because it's theirs. It's not
Yeah.
yours.
Yeah. I love this. And it's reminding me of a conversation I actually had with my daughter, who is 13 now. And she was upset because I wouldn't do something for her. The same conversation that we're having right now. And so she's upset because she doesn't want to be in an uncomfortable situation doing that. And well, I'm unhappy and did it. And I just said, honey, I'm not here to make you happy. And she kind of just looked at me and I was like, I know that's weird for a mom to say, and it feels weird to say it, but really at the end of the day, I'm not here to make you happy. I'm here to give you the tools to make yourself happy and healthy. And this
Mm.
is one of those moments. And that was like, I didn't even like it, just kind of came out of my mouth. I came out of the room and I was like, oh,
Aren't we
wow,
great when we're
hey,
great as parents?
point
I
for
think
mom, right?
all
Like,
parents out there have had those moments where you're like, "Oh, I did that right.
yes, totally, totally.
Wow, like
Yeah.
that came from, I didn't even think about that. That was like totally a natural. I love those.
Oh man. That, that's awesome. Nate, this hour flew by. I knew it would. I always
Oh
love
gosh, it's been an hour.
talking to
Shoot.
you. I know, crazy, hey? Is there any last thing? We've covered it. I know I mentioned to you that we're going to make sure that you gave something to an athlete, that you gave something to a parent and a coach. I know that we've covered that plus some in this episode, but is there any last like tidbit that you want to leave our listeners with before we go today?
I think the only thing that I want to leave everyone with, number one, acknowledging just how hard this world is and how
Mm,
hard this, especially this time, and no time in all of history have we ever had the capability, the access, the support, the knowledge, the information that we do now.
yeah.
And that in itself is one of the biggest challenges in the world. And I just
Mm,
want to acknowledge the challenge that we are facing as parents, as athletes, as coaches in this very, very informed world. Um, that leads me into two things, right? The first one
mm,
is don't believe everything that you see in social media on what everyone else thinks is the greatest, that just everything is glorified in social media. So if you can get off of it,
mhm.
I'm
Yeah.
just gonna just point blank that my wife became happier when she got off of Instagram and TikTok. I
Oh
became
yeah.
happier when I got off of Instagram and TikTok and Facebook. I started becoming more present, even in that. And I still find myself from time to time getting caught up in all of it. And I recognize that it might be an in and out, and in and out, and in and out scenario until we actually learn like it's the right thing for us. But social media is a disaster, in my opinion. The second thing I would just come to y'all with is our kids are capable,
Yeah.
stupid capable, and they have more intelligence and more understanding and more perspective and more personal feedback and more criticism for themselves and more love and more passion and more joy than we even know.
Mm,
And I just want to send the message of when your kid is bringing you anything, recognize that they are stupid capable of not only understanding the situations and having the difficult conversations and working their process. And your biggest opportunity is enabling that capability, in
mm,
my opinion, right? Like, let them be the capable people that they are and even facilitate
yeah.
it. And yeah, sports does that. And so do hundreds of thousands of other things in life. But our kids are capable of having difficult conversations, and they are smart and they are intelligent and they are really, really pure. And so the more that you can enable that, I think the better our world will become.
Mic drop. Well done. Well done, sir.
Mm.
Thanks so much for coming on today, everybody. If you are interested in getting your athletes to go through the Mental Grit program and work with Nate and the team at Mental Grit, then all of the links are going to be in this podcast description. So make sure that you go and check it out. And if you liked what you heard today, give us a follow because all those follows and subscribes help us get more people and support and sponsorship and all that kind of stuff on this podcast. So yeah, keep it real, everybody, and we'll catch you on the flip side.